Hey VC, it's Gary again. It's funny, I was very hesitant to initially record videos, and now I'm like the Energizer Bunny, and I can't stop. Um, Thanks mostly to all the folks, and thanks everybody who watched, and especially the folks that commented. Anybody that's watching my videos that finds them useful or interesting or helpful or entertaining or whatever. And if you don't comment, um, if you're not someone I obviously know from the VC, take a look at my comments on my videos because all the folks that commented there have fantastic channels, just full of knowledge and an incredible range of music. And if you happen to like my stuff and you don't know those folks, most of which you probably do, that's how you got here. Actually, is thanks to those folks. But if you're one of the folks that somehow got here through other means and are not familiar with some of those people that you regularly see commenting on my videos, man, just please check out their channels. They're a fantastic group of people, knowledgeable, and cover an incredibly wide range of stuff. Today, I'm gonna I'm gonna try. I'm really gonna try. I'm gonna keep this down. I'm gonna not do a 32 or a 52 minute video. I gotta give one shout out to Rob, to Panique's 1960, who was just so dedicated. You think he was getting some kind of college credits for sitting through my videos, because I did my 52-minute video, whatever it was, and he's just going through it, and for whatever happens, interruptions, whatever, and he has to stop watching it, and then he sends me a message, I'm coming back to pick up where I left off. Like he's got to get through this, he's got to finish it, and I appreciate it. So for everybody that's commented and said nice things, I really appreciate it. And check out those other people's channels. People seem to, in some cases, have themes on their videos for people that have been around for a while, like D. Washington, like Darryl Washington, has his archives, which is a fantastic idea, which I think Carm is picking up on, and I'm going to pick up on, and let's give credit to Darryl where credit is due. I also had an idea, even before I did my first video. I spent a chunk of yesterday going through my vinyl that's in the storage bin since I moved 2 years ago. Most of it I haven't pulled out since. I haven't played any of it. Actually, most of the things, not all, most of them I actually have on CD, so I am able to hear them. And actually, I'm pulling out the vinyl for the primary reason is to show the artwork, because in this medium, the 12-inch vinyl covers just look better on camera. You can see a little more detail than attempting to hold up a CD booklet. I'm going to get to that stage with the CD booklets very soon. All these early videos, I'm pretty much going to be going through as much vinyl as I can. But I'm going to get to the point when I just have CDs to deal with, and I don't have vinyl. Thematically, I think I'm going to start a series about iconic albums. Not necessarily iconic albums to the general public, like Miles Davis Kind of Blue or that type of thing, but rather personal iconic albums. They could be the first album that you discovered by an artist that turned you on to the artist. Doesn't necessarily have to be the first one. Could be something that just clicked on an album, or a personal experience you had that occurred around the purchase of an album. And I'll tell you one thing, and probably a lot of people have experienced this. You buy an album and you're listening to it at whatever period in your life you bought it. And years later, as you go back and revisit that album and listen to it again, without even attempting to do so, you automatically remember that time when you bought the first album and what was going on in your life. And in some cases, I can remember, in the days of vinyl, I used to make cassette copies of my album, bring them in the car and listen to them. Now, years later, I'm listening to them on CD or even on MP3, and I'm remembering things I did 30 years ago, trips I made, or where I was driving in my car at the moment. And these aren't even big deals. These are just going to a store somewhere or something like that. And for some reason, my memory is just affixed to that very specific instance of being in this particular place, or even driving down some highway at a particular place and time that I've been down a million times before. But time of day, I can remember. I can remember what record store I bought some of my recordings in. I can remember picking up a Harold Budd album when I was visiting a friend in Maryland, and went to a little local record shop there before the CD age. This would be the early 80s. And I can remember picking up that Harold Budd album and not listening to it at my buddy's house and not hearing it until I drove home. But I remember the entire trip, for about a 4-hour trip driving home from Maryland, wondering what the album sounded like. And as soon as I got home, threw it on the turntable and listened to it right away. So, okay, I'm running along already. So I want to do this iconic thematic thing. And there's probably no better place to start for me than with this first album, Max Roach Drums Unlimited. This is, I want to show the back, because when you see, there's no personnel listed on this until you open it. Here's an interesting occurrence. Very down time in my life. It was about 1982 or 83. Very close to Christmas. In fact, it may have been December 23rd or even Christmas Eve. And for a long time, I seem to recall it's Christmas Eve. I was very down, unemployed at the time, as I am again right now. It's my first technical day of unemployment today. But anyway, looking to cheer myself up, didn't obviously have much spending money. I did go into a record store, a little independent record store that was totally empty. And I guess everybody was going wherever they're going for the holiday at that point. And only had enough money for one album, and looked around. And one of the things I wanted was a Max Roach album, because I had read about them, where there were some drum solos, some pieces that he just wrote for drums on them. Now, this is the days of this is days of vinyl before the CD age, but this wasn't a used record store. These were all new sealed albums. And looking at some of the early albums, I could tell they were like co-leader things, and I knew that Max would not probably do the drum solos there. And looking at these photographs, I had nothing to go by except for this photograph that told me this looks like this is a photo from the 60s, and I'm guessing that's when the album was recorded. And at that point, maybe there's a possibility that there's some solo drum pieces on here, which is what I wanted. And oddly enough, like I said, here it is. It's probably Christmas Eve. Album sealed. I can't open it up to find, it had the shrink wrap on it and everything. And I picked it up. And I bought it. It was the only purchase I made that day. Got home, couldn't wait to hear it. Finally got it open. Not going to be able to read much here, but I'll show you the gatefold. Some pictures, the personnel listed. Write up, I love liner notes anyway. I'm a sucker for liner notes. And sure enough, when I open it up, oddly enough, one of the songs, which is an original, wasn't listed on the back. There's no musicians listed here, no titles listed here. Doesn't even list the year of recording. One of the songs is titled "In the Red," and in quotes around there, "A Christmas Carol." Now I thought, Christmas, oh wow, that's a weird coincidence. Here it is, it's Christmas, and the only album I pick up has a tune on here called "A Christmas Carol," which I did not see because it's not listed on here. There's nothing, and oddly enough, even with the liner notes and the musicians inside, there's no recording date listed. So I was not able to find out when the recording date was until the internet came along. And this was over, 15, probably even closer to 20 years later. I found out that I was close. This was recorded partially in at the end of 1965 and part at the beginning of '66. So the album came out in 1966. But I'm still, to this day, I'm amazed at that whole A Christmas Carol thing, which was one of the tracks that Max wrote, and me picking it up on Christmas Eve. Very, very strange thing. And on top of that, I was very, very happy to find out that of the 6 tracks on the album, 3 of them, 3 short ones, but the 3 of them are drum solos. So there's the drum also waltzes, which, if you know Max Roach at all, is probably his best known solo drum piece. It's only about 3.5 minutes long. There's Drums Unlimited, which is another solo piece for kit drums, and For Big Sid. I guess that's for Big Sid Catlett. Another solo drum piece. And the rest of the album is filled out with 3 longer tracks, which feature a full band. And even for Max was always a bit of an adventurer, but this is a very interesting album. There's W.C. Handy's St. Louis Blues is the only, what would you call it, mainstream jazz track really on there that people may have heard St. Louis Blues, done in a very mainstream style. Quite a band. And again, nobody's listed on here, so I didn't, get to look and say, oh, Freddie Hubbard's on this, so I'm going to pick it up. But Freddie Hubbard does play trumpet on the 3 band tracks. James Spaulding plays alto saxophone on the 3 tracks. Ronnie Matthews is the pianist on the 3 tracks of the recording that have the full band. And Jamie Merritt is the bassist on the 3 band tracks. And Roland Alexander plays soprano sax on 1 track. He actually plays on the St. Louis Blues track. There's so the 3 drum solo pieces were written by Max. There's the St. Louis Blues, the band pieces we're getting into, and Nomo, which is a piece written by Jamie Merritt, the bassist, which is an original, which I love. I love when they write more originals than just do standards or covers or that kind of thing. I like that unexpected element. Nomo's a good track. It's not surprisingly built around the bass riff, and the band gets to solo around it, and it's 12 minutes and 43 seconds, so the band really gets to stretch out on it. Not avant-garde, very much in a mainstream jazz mode, with the solos, a lot of room for soloists. And the last track written by Max, and it's the only band piece that was written by Max, which is the In the Red, A Christmas Carol piece, is really interesting. Max has done a lot of stuff. I don't know if he's quite done anything like this before. It's almost ECM-ish in that it's very open in terms of the time signature. And it's not a style I heard Max play a whole lot of. I heard Max play wild drums and do long drum solos and do composed pieces, like the 3 solo drum pieces on here are very much composed pieces. But this band piece, it's very free. You can't tell where the bar lines end and the next one begins. And it's a pretty piece. It's not wild free jazz. And the free jazz thing was pretty much going on at this time, starting at this time. It's not that. It's actually a really pretty piece. And it's something that fans of ECM Records would probably pick up on, probably their favorite track on the album. And it's about 12.5 minutes. It's a really good chunk of time on the album. Fantastic piece. And I recommend it. The only slight issue I have with it maybe is that it could have been recorded better. And I don't know if that's an issue or not, because it's 1966. It was recorded in New York in a professional studio. But when you're talking about subtle music, and especially In the Red, A Christmas Carol, because comparing it to artists that have done similar type of music, especially in the 70s, maybe a little bit of the subtleties of the horns missing. And again, this is an all acoustic effort. There's no electric instruments on there, so the recording quality has a lot to do with how successful the piece is. because you want to be able to hear the more subtle things that are going on. It's a fantastic album, and I don't think it's the first. I think I had other things by Max, but they didn't hit home maybe as complete as this. And with that whole weird thing of not including the recording date, but the whole thing of me buying it on Christmas Eve, it was a weird thing, and it always stuck with me. And I think I have, without intending to do it, I have no less than 3 CD copies of the same album. Here's the CD edition. When they reissued it on CD, it's glary, but the information is in the back. The musicians and the song titles are in the back. So the experience of buying it on CD is quite different than my experience of buying it on album, when I couldn't tell who played on it, and I couldn't tell when it was recorded, and I couldn't tell the titles of the tracks. And I'm not sure if I'd have to look again. I'm not sure if the reissue mentions the recording date on CD. Got me into Max a little bit heavier. Here's Boom, which, guys, I have this on vinyl, and I should have pulled it out just because, I'm sorry, you can appreciate the album covers better in vinyl. And I got lazy because I spent several hours going through my bins of vinyl to pull out the albums that I need to really show for future videos. And I came across the Boom album, which is 1979 by Max. This is Max Roach again, with an all percussion ensemble, a lot of tuned percussion, marimbas, that kind of thing. Very different from his mainstream jazz, very different from the Drums Unlimited album, and actually very accessible. Maybe for people that are looking for something different than bebop, or it's a very accessible album. And it was a group that lasted a while, that Max had, but he didn't do a lot of recordings with them. And there's a lot of known people in the group, if you follow the jazz scene from the 70s. And I'm trying to pull out the CD booklet, which would have been better if I did have the vinyl, I guess, because all that information was there. And sure enough, I cannot find the musicians listed on here. Here we go. Here's a couple. Joe Chambers is the drummer. One of the drummers, I should say, the drummer. Roy Brooks, Joe Chambers, Fred King, Ray Mantilla, Max Roach, of course, Freddie Watts. I think I mentioned Freddie Watts. I guess Joe Chambers, maybe one of the better known people. They play all types of percussion, including musical saw, on a couple of the tracks, which is very prominent in the mix. It's a fun album. It's very accessible. It's not Max Roach like a leader type of thing. It's not at all his small group jazz stuff. There's quite a few musicians in there playing percussion. And just now, this one I don't have on vinyl. Max Roach Survivors. This is one of the hard ones to get into, guys, because it's Max Roach with a string quartet. So there's no jazz instruments. There's no pianos and bass and horns. It's just Max with a kind of avant-garde quartet of the typical stringed instruments: 2 violins, viola, and cello. Pretty wild. You got to be really open to it. It's not one of those albums that you have to be in the mood for it. It's not one of the albums that you just kind of, I don't know what I'm going to listen to, so I'm going to put this on. But as much as I love Drums Unlimited, and I love Drums Unlimited, because of my personal history, that type of thing that I was talking about earlier, I couldn't live without that album. If I could only have one Max Roach album, that would be it, because of that whole historical thing connected to me. But if somebody else came up to me and said, where can I buy one Max Roach album, get a good representation maybe of his stuff, it would be this. And here's one, I don't think this ever came out on vinyl. It's called To the Max. And this is a 2-disc set that came out, I want to say, in the late 80s. And I can't find the date on there right now. It came out in 1991, and these were new recordings at the time. A 2-disc set, probably runs about between an hour and 50 minutes, maybe something like that. Um, the thing that's really cool about this um, is that it features Max in a number of settings. This was recorded over a period of months, um, many months, maybe even up to a year, and it has two drum solos on there. Max re-records two of the drum solos, or actually one of the drum solos from the percussion album that I showed you, Drums Unlimited. He does the track Drums Unlimited. He remakes that. He does a new solo drum piece. It's only 4 minutes, called Self Portrait. So it's two CD set with two little short drum solo pieces, but you get the flavor of that. It has about 4 tracks of Max with a quartet, standard jazz quartet. Bass, piano, drums, and horn. So you get that flavor of Max, which is what he did probably more of his career than anything else, is the small group jazz thing. More of a mainstream mode, but because of recordings from around 90, 91, 89 period, it's very clear, it's very well recorded. And it's the only other album besides the Boom album that actually has, that I'm aware of, that has pieces by Boom on it. So it's got a few pieces, it's got 3 pieces sprinkled throughout the album with the percussion ensemble. So you get that flavor. And that's the Boom project is completely different from the other stuff Max did. So it's nice to have that on there. And there's a piece with the Max Roach double quartet, which is, wow, I'm doing this from memory. I should have opened this up. And I'm pretty sure it's a standard jazz quartet with string ensemble. So unlike the Survivors album, which was just with the ensemble, with just the 4 string players and no jazz group, it's a string quartet with Max's jazz quartet, which had Odeon Pope on saxophone, Cecil Bridgewater on trumpet, Tyrone Brown on bass. And I'm wrong, there was no piano in the quartet that's on this album. So it's 2 horns, drums, and bass is jazz quartet on this album, which has several pieces, as I mentioned. Uptown String Quartet plays as Max Roach double quartet on several of the pieces, so you get strings with a jazz quartet, which is interesting. And the weird thing, which Max may have recorded something else like this, I'm not sure. The Max Roach Chorus and Orchestra does, does 2 pieces that equal about 21 minutes total. That's different again because it's a vocal chorus of numerous large ensemble vocalists. So it's that's pretty out there. That's pretty difficult stuff. A lot of male voices, tenor voices, bass voices, bass vocals, alto voices, sopranos. And in that group is also George Cable's on piano, and I'm not sure if there's a bass player on there or not, but that's pretty out there to hear Max with a group of, I don't know, a dozen or 16 vocalists. So that it's varied all over the place. Again, a lot of stuff on this album. The vocal things in particular kind of have to be in the mood for, maybe, but it's just such a great. I want to hear Max. I'm not sure I want to what I want to hear by him. And you could hear his jazz quartet with 2 horns and bass and drums. You can hear a couple solo drum pieces, which I just eat up. I just love his little kit drum compositions are wonderful things. And the Boom thing, which is very accessible. The Boom stuff is fun. It's easy. It's not avant-garde, noisy stuff. And then you get into the more, the vocal things and the orchestral things. Pretty wild. But they show again another side of Max. And I actually had a few different artists and a few different recordings chosen for this video, not knowing how long I would go. So I'm just gonna leave it with Max today. I got plenty more icon series that I'm going to do videos. The albums that meant the most to me, that have a personal history, and pretty much all of these albums are things that I've had for 30 years. You don't necessarily, I guess, as you get older, come across ones as much as you like them that may knock your socks off, like some of these things, or maybe it's just a sense of the history that the albums have with our own personal history. But those Max things, if you're not familiar with some of those albums and you're into Max or you're curious about Max, I hope it helped. I want to thank everybody for all the really nice comments. I got to say, of all the folks, literally everybody that's commented on my first two videos, I have been to their channels and watched their videos. And out of all of them, by far, I have the worst backdrop of everyone. I don't know what to do about it, guys. I have a tablet. It has a camera in it. The camera it's a little funky because when I record, it turns itself off after a matter of seconds, not even a minute. So it would be great because I could pretty much walk around anywhere with it. But you might be stuck with me and this backdrop, and until I can hang a wire across my wall and put up something hanging there of interest, you're stuck with what you got. You're stuck with me in the corner of my bedroom. And I can't even turn the camera around to show you that right in front of me is a window that I can see out. And, sometimes there's a nice starry sky out there maybe or something. I don't know. But anyway, guys, thanks so much for the nice comments. Thanks, Rob, for Rob coming back 19 times. He's got to get my whole video in, my whole 51-minute video in. And I appreciate that. And to Carm and everybody. Guys, I'll never do, anywhere near the type of job that Carm does on his videos in his extremely intelligent, knowledgeable way. And I'll never have Rob Panique's 1960. I will never have his energy. I wish I did. But it makes watching his videos a joy. And all you guys, thanks so much. I'm going to be back soon. Maybe I'll do another Icon album. I had 3 of them picked out by 3 different artists. And knowing that I don't want to go as long as I have in the past, I'll just keep it with Max. Max is great anyway, so it's not a bad thing. And thanks, guys, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.